Have you ever really stopped to think about what's inside the food in your pantry? You know, the stuff we eat every single day? It turns out, from breakfast to dinner, our food is hiding some pretty surprising and, honestly, kind of concerning secrets. So, let's start peeling back those labels, beginning with something most of us have on our breakfast table.
It all starts with something that seems so innocent, right? A simple piece of toast. But the journey from a humble grain of wheat to that slice on your plate, well, that's where things get really complicated. What are we actually eating when we start our day with that piece of bread?
All right, let's peel back the wrapper on that loaf you buy at the store. You'd think it's just, flour, water, maybe some salt. But the ingredient list on a typical loaf of bread, it looks less like a recipe and way more like a chemistry experiment.
I mean, just look at this. A single loaf of bread can have more than 25 ingredients. Think about that for a second. We're talking about vitamins that were stripped out and then have to be added back in, plus all sorts of sugars and conditioners. At this point, you gotta ask, is it even really bread anymore? Or is it just a chemical formula designed for a long shelf life, instead of, for your actual health?
The difference is just, wow, it's stark. On the right, you have real bread. 3 ingredients, simple. But on the left, you've got that processed loaf. And because the flour is so incredibly refined, it has a super high glycemic index. That basically means it hits your bloodstream just like pure sugar. So when you eat this for breakfast, your body treats it like you're eating a piece of candy.
But here's the thing. That refined flour, acting like sugar, that's only part of the problem. The second huge culprit hiding in our processed foods is fat. Or, more accurately, everything we've been told about fat for the last 50 years.
Let's take a bag of chips, for example. We've all been trained to look at the saturated fat content and think, oh, good, it's low. But that nutrition label is hiding something right there in plain sight. It turns out the very fats we were told to eat might actually be the ones causing the most harm.
For decades, what we were all taught was simple. Saturated fat, bad. Polyunsaturated fat, good. Well, guess what? We might have gotten it completely backwards. The science is now pointing to a new villain. These highly processed polyunsaturated fats, especially omega-6 fatty acids, which are super inflammatory. The emerging truth, natural saturated fat is actually way better for you.
So where do these inflammatory fats even come from? Well, they come from these vegetable seed oils. And please, don't let the name fool you. They do not come from vegetables like broccoli or spinach. Nope, they're industrially extracted from seeds, things like soy, corn, and canola. And these oils are absolutely packed with those pro-inflammatory omega-6 fats.
So what does all this omega-6 do once it's inside your body? Well, for starters, it creates chronic inflammation, the kind that's linked to major health problems like heart disease. It literally changes the structure of your cell membranes. Think of it like this. It takes your strong, sturdy cell walls and replaces them with brittle, cracking plaster. This makes your cells weak, easily damaged, and they just can't function the way they're supposed to.
And to really drive this home, Dr. Jamnadaz, the cardiologist whose work is the basis for this explainer, he puts it so plainly. Saturated fats are infinitely preferable than polyunsaturated fats. This is a complete 180-degree turn from the dietary advice most of us have been hearing our entire lives.
So, we've got our 3 main culprits: refined flour, hidden sugars, and those vegetable seed oils. But how do you actually spot them on a label? Come on, let's go undercover and decode a really common snack food.
A cookie is the perfect example, really. It's almost always baked with those inflammatory vegetable oils we just talked about. But it also delivers a nasty 1-2 punch, a massive and often hidden load of sugar.
So you check the label and you see this, 11 grams of added sugar. And you might think, 11 grams, that doesn't sound too bad, right? It's just a number on a package. But what does 11 grams actually look like when you take it out of the cookie?
It looks like this: 5 teaspoons of pure granulated sugar. That's what's in that little single serving of cookies. Now think about that. Would you ever just sit down and eat 5 spoonfuls of sugar straight from the bowl? No way, of course not. But that is exactly what your body has to process when you eat these snacks.
Okay, I know, this can all feel a little overwhelming. But the good news is you really don't have to be a nutritionist to get this right. You just need a simple game plan for your next trip to the grocery store.
So here it is, your new shopping mantra. Just 4 simple rules. 1. Check the ingredients for vegetable seed oils, like soy, corn, and canola. If you see them, Put it back on the shelf. 2. Check the sugar. If it's over 5 grams per serving, it's a no-go. 3. Go for raw nuts. The roasted kind are almost always cooked in those awful inflammatory oils. And 4. Please don't be afraid to cook with stable, natural fats, like good old butter.
So why are these rules so important? What is actually happening deep down inside our bodies when we eat this way? Well, the answer lies deep within your cells, in these tiny little power plants that generate all of your energy. They're called your mitochondria.
On the left, you see what just gums up the whole system, overwhelming your mitochondria with processed junk and a constant flood of sugar. But on the right, you see what makes them happy, what makes them thrive, giving them the right kind of fuel like healthy fats, giving them a break every now and then through fasting, and letting your body switch over to a super clean energy source called ketones. This is how you build real, sustainable energy from the inside out.
So ultimately, it all comes down to this one question. Every single time you pick up a package and you read that label, you are making a choice. Are these ingredients going to fuel your body's power plants, or are they going to force your body to fight a constant battle against inflammation? The power to choose, it's in your hands.